Well, 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 if it isn't David Gilmour. What a surprise.
Well, you called me.
Never mind that. I just wanted to call to tell you that I'm working up a new concept album and I'm going on tour. What do you think of that?
I'm not really sure what to say. Okay, I guess.
Okay is right. I'm finally restating myself as the creative genius behind the Pink Floyd.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're the creative genius behind Pink Floyd.
That's right.
You do realise there were 3 other members, right?
Who?
Richard and Nick.
I repeat. Who?
Come on, Roger. Why do you have to be like this? Is this the life you really want? Don't do it. Damn it! So if any of you have ever watched this channel, you would know that I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. And oddly enough, I've never checked out any of their solo stuff. Well, Roger Waters just released his first solo album in 25 years, so why not start now? But I can't do this alone. I need someone that pisses and drinks Waters to help me out with this one.
I said tonight, tonight, tonight. I love you. Yes.
What the hell are you doing? Look kids, it's FDV from the YouTube channel FDVProductions and co-host of the Fresh from the Basement podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Shalom. Thank you, you're all beautiful. So, what do you want?
Well, I was hoping you would drop your amazing Roger Waters knowledge on us.
Oh, Roger Waters?
Oh, Raji, what an impact you've made on music. As we all know, Roger Waters was one of the founding members of smash hit prog band Pink Floyd. He mostly served as bassist and singer on a few of the songs, but after the original founder Syd Barrett's departure from the band, he also took over lyrics. After a period of adjustment, this is where we enter the golden age of Floyd, where there was no clear leader of the group. They felt like a unit. It felt as though they were working together. This cooperation led to arguably their best album, The Dark Side of the Moon. Album after album, they had a hit, despite writing lyrics against the music industry. They were very enigmatic, but everyone knew their name. But the media blitz could get to anyone's head, and in this case, Roger became more controlling. This led to a cultural phenomenon. The Wall is one of the most celebrated albums in their library, and it really is a grand piece of epic proportions. But this marks the end of the golden era, and the beginning of the end for the Floyd lineup we've come to know and love. This was the Waters-led era, and it didn't last too long. The Wall brought tension between Waters and Gilmour, and Waters and Richard Wright. The tension continued into the final cut, which was pretty much scraps from The Wall, and could have very much been a Waters solo effort, if not from the guitar and drum work of Gilmour and Mason. Hey, I liked it. But after that, Waters was through. Yeah, Waters of all people felt spent. So he left the band. He tried to stop the other members from continuing with the band's name, stating, "I am Pink Floyd." On a side note, just because I love his music doesn't mean I agree with everything he says.
Roger Waters is openly criticizing Bon Jovi over the band's weekend show in Tel Aviv.
He's got to shut up, Roger Waters.
The former Pink Floyd bassist wrote an open letter on Salon.com prior to Bon Jovi's Saturday concert. He accused the band of standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel and cited Palestinian casualties caused by the Israeli government.
What is with Roger Waters and the Jews?
If you were going to make a political statement against the people, against the government of Israel, and in terms of their particular policies towards the Palestinian issue, then the proper way to do that would be to take the symbol of the government of Israel, of the state of Israel, namely the Israeli flag, and put it on that pig. All right. The very fact that you're affixing anything Jewish to a pig is offensive in and of itself. Okay. And I know that other symbols are utilized during the show, but they aren't put on the pig, are they?
But part of the enjoyment of Roger Waters is just how blatantly controversial he can be sometimes. And as Floyd went on, his concepts became more and more political. His first solo effort, though, was a carry-on from a little idea he whipped up during The Wall's inception. The pros and cons of hitchhiking. This album wasn't too political, but it tackled another subject Waters loves to explore: sex. The album had greats like Eric Clapton and Michael Kamen involved, and in some of the composition you could tell these songs were meant to be a side plot to The Wall, reworked into its own story. It's definitely a personal favorite of mine. Then in June of 1987 he released Radio Chaos, an album that took a more 80s pop sound. At first I was put off by this, but after a few more listens I've argued with myself whether this is my favorite of his or not. That same summer, David Gilmour brought a waterless Floyd back with A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which I thought was a valiant effort and proved that they can still go on without Roger as the central nervous system. This begins the Gilmour-led era of Floyd. In 1992, Waters released Amused to Death. Critically speaking, this is his best album to date. Instead of Eric Clapton, this album had another great, Jeff Beck, on lead guitar. And once again, I argue with myself if this is my favorite of his work or not. This concludes the Roger Waters trilogy, if you will. Then in 1994, Floyd released The Division Bell. It's not the same year as Amused to Death, but it's still pretty close, only 2 years, so I'm almost certain that they were competing with each other over who can release the better album.
Oh, you're just jealous we did better without you. You'll never top The Division Bell.
Oh, you mean that album you shat out to compete with Amused to Death? That album practically copied my album's template, except you don't give a shit about politics.
After that, Roger worked on an opera called Ça, There Is Hope, for years before its release in 2005. Pardon my shitty French. It's an interesting listen. Although I have no idea what exactly the story is about just by listening to it, I do know it's about the French Revolution. It's neat to see Roger do something so different than his previous works, but there are times it reeks of pretension, which I guess is unavoidable with the music he decides to make. Recently, David ended Floyd with the final piece to the Gilmour trilogy, if you will, The Endless River. A year later, Gilmour released his own solo album, Rattle That Lock. It was time for Waters to retaliate.
Rattle that lock? More like straddle that cock.
You're one to talk, you self-obsessed prick. Up yours.
Go let your wife write your lyrics.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, at least I have a wife, and it didn't take me 4 tries either.
Fuck you.
After he revisited The Wall and went on tour with it, talks of a new Waters album were going around. I guess we all assumed it would be the same typical Roger Waters bullshit, but I was still excited nonetheless. And now that's out, we can finally see what he's got in store for us.
So will it be more of the same, or will he surprise us with something different? Let's find out.
We start the album with When We Were Young.
Dude, this is The Killers.
Whoops, wrong song.
There it is. And it starts off sounding like something that would drive Captain Hook to suicide. But all joking aside, it's a cool, spacey intro that sets the mood of the album while sounding a lot like old Pink Floyd.
It almost mixes the openings of Dark Side of the Moon and the pros and cons of Hitchhiking with the heartbeat and also the ticking clock. This should be the first indication that he's given us something a little more old school.
I'm still ugly. And if I were a drone.
This leads into the second song, Deja Vu. The lyrics to this song start out a little overly complicated, but once it gets its footing, it's actually a really good track. I can see why they used this as one of the singles. In this song, Roger states that if he were God, he could have done a better job.
A bold claim.
I know that line is going to stir some pots. He even gives a little chuckle after saying the lines. He knows how dickish it is. I love the part where he screams, but I'll elaborate more on that as we get along. And finally, I really like the chorus to this song. It's very catchy, and the lyrics and rhyme scheme are really memorable to me.
I totally agree, dude. The music is great. The acoustic guitar, the orchestral sections, man, it just straight up sounds like old Pink Floyd. And I love the glass breaking sound effects coming in at this moment. It helps the song feel bigger and more theatrical. Now, 2 things I will say. The first thing I noticed is the age in his voice. He has this experienced old man voice that can take some getting used to. But damn, once he hits that shouting part, there's no denying that this is Roger Waters.
And it feels like deja vu. The sun goes down and I'm still missing you. I wouldn't be afraid to find someone home! Yeah!
And number 2, this last bit sounds an awful lot like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I really dig this track. It's so smooth, chilled out, and relaxing. The piano and synth lines really bring you back to good old music that's not really around anymore. Now to me, the opening sound bites are better than Roger's lyrics on this one. He does his thing vocal-wise, but is it about a missing loved one? Did his kid die? Or is it an excuse to bitch about iPhones? It's one where I can just tune him out and sway to the jam. Now this song does start off a feeling that I have with most of this album. Around the halfway mark, I kind of find myself thinking, damn, a rockin' ass David Gilmour solo would be good right about now.
No, you don't understand, you fucking twat. The Wall was our best album, and everything I did without you guys far succeeds all of your shit. You guys are assholes, I hate you all. You're a bunch of fucking simpletons. Since you mentioned this in Deja Vu, Trav, I'll go into more depth with what I meant about the screaming part. It's apparent that Roger was never technically the best singer, especially when compared to Gilmour. But his gruff and aged voice really adds to the tone of the album. He's always been good at making his craziness work with a song. Just look at Don't Leave Me Now Off the Wall for proof of that. It's not necessarily about the skill, but the vibe he gives off. I love it. This song shows that Roger is up to his usual tropes, using sounds from a radio or a distant TV. And you know what? Although unoriginal, it still kinda works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. The music video, on the other hand, seems like one of my experimental student films that I thought was deep at the time, but then as you get older, sorta seems silly when you look back at it, but Roger never had that moment. What could I say though? I like it. The next track is Picture That. No, not that. The song starts out with a sound similar to The Wall and then evolves into something that kinda sounds like sheep off of Animals. It's definitely the fastest track on the album, and it's up there as one of my faves. But do you think he said fuck enough?
Dude, I totally get you on the Animals comparisons. I even get a little bit of Dark Side of the Moon vibes as well. It is definitely a trip back in time. I also love the lyrical flow. It's the type of flow that's easy to goof with. Picture yourself with no fucking ice cream, it's melted away in your fucking cone. Picture McDonald's with no fucking Ronald. Picture a sandbox with no fucking sand. Picture the dog in the pickup ahead.
When World War II was over,
we're gonna play the Roger Waters drinking game. Whenever you get a reference to pop culture destroying our youth, world leaders acting stupid in World War II, take a shot.
You'll die in one song.
Yeah, you're right. But I do love this song. It has a big wall vibe, kinda reminding me of Mother, do you think they dropped the ball? The song starts off slow and builds to a big finish that just freaking takes you places.
I really like this track. It's the ultimate lighter holder of the album, an ode to a dying America or world for that matter. The composition can bring tears to the eye, and it almost reminds me of something the Cranberries would do. It's beautifully downtrodden. The one thing I did notice, though, is that Roger must really be taking the chains off, because the lyrics are some of the angriest I've heard of his in a while, and he's cursing an awful lot. Maybe back then you'd get away with one F-bomb, but now he's just cursing constantly. Not that I'm complaining, though. I mean, shit, what the fuck's with all the fucking cursing? Watch your goddamn mouth, you son of a bitch. It's, dare I say, cynical, though I can't be sure, since Roger will be the first to tell you that you're mistaking sarcasm for cynicism, but that's just what I feel. You know, I'm surprised Waters hasn't done any Trump bashing yet. I mean, sure, in Picture That, he mentioned a leader with no brain, but that can be anyone. It's a bold move on his part that he didn't go after the Trumpster, since everyone would be expecting him to.
So, as an example, your CNN, I mean, it's story after story after story.
There it is, there it is.
I knew he couldn't resist.
Take a shot.
I'm only 18.
The fuck is 18? Drink, bitch.
Okay. In all seriousness, though, I really like the ominous tone of this track. It gives my mind visions of walking through a gray and depressing city and seeing the damage done by the government. This was based on a poem that Roger wrote, and of course he had to revise it since the poem was really frickin' long, but it's cool to hear the words from the poem that he did leave in put to music. He also had to revise it to make it more relevant with today's society by adding more lyrics. The only line from the original poem that I wish was here is "Look at Bush and Cheney, then look at you and me." That's like comparing Shakespeare to reality TV. I know it's a dated reference, but goddamn does it just hit the spot for me.
Definitely, dude. This is one angry song about not just government corruption, but how all of society is basically playing a part in their own demise. Like someone hurting people directly, the people that turn a blind eye, and people that are so blinded by television that they have no idea what's really going on. It's a real dark and angry song about how there's just no hope for humanity, and it's freaking awesome. Bird in a Gale is a fantastic trippy prog jam with fairly cryptic lyrics, and damn, it's another one that really reminds me of Animals. Now I do hate to keep saying, oh, it reminds me of the old Pink Floyd, but it really does. It's real crazy to think that in many ways we kind of got 2 new Pink Floyd albums in the past 3 years. This song is definitely another favorite of mine.
Now this is prog. Plain and simple, this is progressive rock in every definition of the word. Mindscapey, atmospheric, musically chaotic yet beautiful. Smoke it if you got it, because this song is rad. I'm mainly praising this song because of the instruments, but the effects put on Roger's voice give it this feel. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but it really suits his voice and the sound well. Though you can continue to play the drinking game with all the Roger Waters tropes at play here. The constantly repeating noises, kind of like in Bring the Boys Back Home Off the Wall, the sudden explosion sound effects utilized in the final cut in Amused to Death, and not to mention, every time he mentions dogs or uses dog sound effects in not just this album, but pretty much everything he's done.
She may well have been the most beautiful girl in the world.
And oh look, this whole song is dedicated to another Roger trope. Women. Now I don't know if the girl is supposed to represent America or society or something, but it doesn't excuse the fact that he's done this before. Young Lust, the entirety of the pros and cons of hitchhiking, and watching TV off of Amused to Death. Then again, what male rock singer hasn't sang about women? Even the gay ones have at this point. I'll give it this much, it's at least pleasant sounding. I like how the female background singers, another Floyd trope in general, gently take us out. This might be the only song on the album that doesn't directly dissolve into the next one.
This song kinda drags. To me, there's not really much going on, and I can skip it without feeling bad. They all can't be zingers.
Dude, this is the Cranberries.
My bad, too many shots. This is the song that sold me on the album. I have this sort of one-song rule before buying an album by artists I like, because I don't want to spoil the album in a world where most of it is on YouTube before it's released. Man, when I first listened to it, it blew me away. It had this big have a cigar vibe, and it's just groovy as all hell. Lyrically, it feels like it's about some gung-ho war boys. And it's definitely another favorite of mine.
Now I know we've been comparing a lot of these songs to things you'd hear off Animals, but there's usually something about them that made them different too. This song sounds a little too much like Animals. Like if you played this song with that album, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And is it just me, or does the middle kinda sound like something you'd hear off Stranger Things? Mouth breather. Anyway, I could totally see why they chose this to be the main single of the album. It is really catchy, and when that guitar slides in after the middle point, it could bring chills down your spine. If I can nitpick one more thing though, I feel like the placement of this song on the album is a little wonky. I feel like this should have came before The Most Beautiful Girl, since I feel that song would have been a much better lead-in to the next song, Wait for Her. But I guess they wanted that last big song before the encore, since the last 3 tracks on this album connect so well they might as well be one song. Even so, I feel like it throws off the flow of the album a bit.
Loaded for the mountains like a stoic.
This song speaks to the hopeless romantic in me. I really love the loving sound it gives off, and that sweet guitar section. This song probably has some political meaning, but the way I see it, it feels more like a wise old man giving advice to a love-struck young teen about how to treat the lady of his dreams. The point becomes kinda moot though when you realize Waters has been through 4 marriages. I know, don't compare the art to the artist, but I can't help but take it in that direction. Maybe it's some sort of Charles Dickens' Marley's Ghost type feel, where it's a desperate warning to all those young lovers out there. Frank! Roger Waters? Whatever you do, don't end up like me. Wait for her, Frank. Wait for her. Or she'll leave you writing concept albums for the rest of your life. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. That's what they all say. Until you run the well dry. I mean, who would have thought that if you cheated on your first wife, they'd be mad with you? I'm a rock star, for fuck's sake. She knew the deal. That doesn't make it up. Whatever. Don't say I didn't warn you. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall. What the fuck? In conclusion, I could see this being a really good wedding song if you don't think too deep about it. Sure, a lot of people write love songs, but this one seems to have genuine meaning and emotion behind it. Political or romantic, it still has meaning, unlike some of these shallow modern love songs that pretty much come down to me boy, you girl, we sex now, OMG, OMG, WTF, ZZZ, and that's it.
Man, you definitely said it best right there. I don't mind this song, it has a lot of heart, and I really like how it rolls into the next track, Oceans Apart. Hell, the last 3 tracks feel like a nice prog suite, with each song being a different movement. But I don't understand why he didn't just keep them together in one big piece like the old days. Because to me, with keeping this track separate, it's just an okay song. But it's much better when you listen to this, Oceans Apart, and A Part of Me Died as a whole. Alone it's fine, but together it feels more complete. Oceans Apart is the second movement of the Wait for Her suite, if you will, and I really dig this piece. The ocean and seagulls bring in some atmosphere, the guitar licks are cool, but with it being hardly over a minute, Oceans Apart doesn't feel complete without hearing Wait for Her and A Part of Me Died. It's more like a nice segue to the next part of the suite.
Much like The Wall or The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, this album has a main theme that gets repeated throughout most of the songs. These last 3 songs seem to have a riff that's a slight variation on Deja Vu or Broken Bones.
I'm not sure what to say. These last 3 songs could have been one. This last song sums up the theme of the album, I guess.
This right here is a great way to end this album. It's a total bummer. He just mentions everything that's wrong with society. Based on the album's themes, it's great to end on such a no-hope scenario. And the music, man, the reprise of Wait for Her, the different musical motifs from many parts of the album, just connect all of the themes together. Now, if Wait for Her was a nice little love song to begin the suite, the ending of the suite is a complete shift. It's totally bleak, and I'm not taking any more shots because I will die. This album is pretty damn good, and it surpassed all of my expectations. I love how the music reminds me of old Pink Floyd. Obviously the Roger Waters side of things, but that's not bad at all. It's rich with big theatrical moments, foreboding atmosphere, soft quiet passages, and really great build-ups. The themes are your normal depressing Waters topics, but in our world today it's kind of welcome. It's one angry album that could easily be written off as the album equivalent of somebody's grumpy grandpa bitching about the world today. But Roger has always used his distaste for things in his music, so it's really nothing new. Is This the Life We Really Want is a pessimistic observation on the world today and makes for one damn fine collection of music.
Although not at all a bad album, it's still not the best of his work. Don't get me wrong, it's competent, but it didn't have me arguing with myself whether it was my favorite of his or not like his previous works. This was more of a throwback album, which is fine, but it didn't blow me away like I'd hoped it would. It didn't have a huge variation of sound for the most part, and it was a slow burn on first listenings. You'll notice the predominant piano sound. Due to that lack of variation, the musical journey it takes you on is decent at best. Now that didn't mean I didn't enjoy this album. I'd much rather have a decent musical journey than no journey at all, and I wasn't disappointed since, like I said at the beginning, we were all sort of expecting it to be more of the same. I completely respect the work that was put into it, and I'll most likely be jamming to most of these songs in the future. At least it wasn't an album made up of acoustic covers of old stuff. In a time so politically charged, we needed a new Waters album, and I completely accept the work that was given for what it is.
Well, dude, that shit was pretty fun.
Yeah, and hey, I'll see you in 25 years when the next Waters album comes out. Hopefully Tool will have something for us too.
Yeah, probably not. Roger, there's something I've always wanted to tell you for a long time, and I could never find the words.
Yes?
All in all, you're just another dick with no balls.
What the fuck are you two doing? You're trying to ruin the legacy of Pink Floyd, the shit that I helped create? You two are just bloody bastards. Why don't you just get over your bullshit and just at least make amends?
Nah.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah, we already tried that shit with Live 8, buddy.
Check it. Sipping on a bird, sipping on a bird. Been sipping on a beer for 3 damn years, a million tears, cause I'm fucking alcoholic and I'm on metabolic, cause I don't go out and frolic. Just sitting here, sipping beer, showing fear, getting leers, everybody hating, steadily sedating, people always rating who I'm letty dating. No, I ain't faking, sipping on a bird. Sipping on a bird, 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 sipping on a bird.
When you see me sipping on this bird, you know that I be tripping.
Alright, fuck this shit. I gotta get back to the great gig in the sky to see Gerald.
Oh yeah, how's he been?
Oh yeah, you know, he's getting rather old, but he's a good mouse. Oh, that's nice. Hey, I'll see ya.